Commissioners Finance Committee, as it were, and today is Wednesday, October 28th, time is 1:30, so we don't need roll call for this one, so we'll move right into item 2, which is the minutes of our meeting from October 21. Need action on that.
So I'm gonna move to approve those minutes.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we have our topics for today, both of which are related to Cumberland Area Economic Development Corporation. And we're going to be referencing the 2021 funding request for the organization, as well as the grant administration for the Renewed Cumberland program, which has been, of course, front and center for us for some time now. So this mentioned Serene, she is not here, Jamie is here, and Laura. Laura Playoff is here.
And it begins.
So, no. So anyhow, okay, we'll just, turn you guys into somebody to address the information we got.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Commissioners Eichenberger, Foshee, and DiFilippo. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you to talk about our 2020 funding status. Let me give you a little report of where we're at year to date, considering the COVID circumstances. Talk about our 2021 funding request, and then ultimately to talk about the request for funding for administering the Renewed Cumberland Grant Program. So to delve right into the 2020 report on current activity, I wanted to start with one of the items, local defense group. We funded $50,000 for the local defense group in 2020. And in light of our strategic plan, which you're all aware of that we're working on and hopefully completing here soon, we're tying these activities to our strategic plan going forward. So I wanted to let you know that these funds will go towards effective implementation of our strategic plan. And the first item is Strategic Initiative A2 is base preservation. It's part of our strategic priority, which is creating a healthy economic development ecosystem. Part of that strategy, and again, started in 2020, but is to identify and communicate community value to our military installations, continuing to engage with them, to retain and enhance military and community partnerships at our installations. You'll hear a little bit more about that as we get into the activities that have occurred and are going to occur. To be a catalyst for economic development and public-private partnerships on and around the installations. Recently, we had a local business contact us about a relationship that they're trying to develop at Carlisle to provide a service. So we're hoping to help facilitate that, that we can support our local businesses in that way. And support and advocate for military minor construction and construction projects that enhance our military installations' future viability. And we'll talk a little bit more about the projects there as well. That's sort of the overall strategy. I want to let Laura, again, Laura Playoff is with me today, let you introduce yourself, but then talk about the activities in the 2020 local defense group.
Yeah, as you know, Laura Potoff, Director of Business and Workforce Development for
What's your
KDA.
name again?
Pottoff.
The minutes,
Also, oversee our military initiatives as far as, again, as well as workforce. So some of the activities for 2020, as you know, with COVID, things have been a little hard to get meetings pulled together and get people, as it was a little rocky in the beginning. But we are now starting with our committee meetings and program activities. We also finished an audit and compliance. And so some of the funding went for our administrative support for these activities. Also quarterly military briefings from senior military leaders at each installation. So with the local defense group, our advisory committee usually meets quarterly, and we take turns at each 3 of our installations to give updates. So the next one is November 5th, and the commandant at Carlisle Barracks will give an update to us along with the Major General. So those have started up again. We were also represented the local defense group at the I-81 corridor roundtable that happened in March. In addition to that, the Carlisle Army War College Administration Building briefing, we were a part of that as well. Post Road Multimodal Transportation Project, we are continuing to move forward on that. As you may remember, last year, I think maybe the year before that, we actually, you guys, along with some of the money that we get from the PA Military Commission, funded that study that was done, and now we're making steps forward with that. Along with that is the J-Lewis project support, which is the joint land use study that was done with Hamden Township and the Navy base. So we're continuing to look at how we can actually get some projects in line with that. And then ongoing meetings regarding implementation of the NSA, Mechanicsburg J-Lewis, with as far as energy and resource sharing within the community, how we can kind of take what they're missing there and what the community's already doing, or vice versa, and collaborate on those things. And then continued outreach with Dauphin County, about the 193rd in York County, DLA, New Cumberland, because they're affiliated. We had talked about in the past of going to Dauphin and York County and getting them more involved in the local defense group with the through financing and support. So those things are continuing to push forward. Like I said, we had a slow COVID start with some of those things. So Jamie, if you want to talk to the 2021 military
Yeah, so
opportunities.
2021 military opportunities, we're looking to go forward and implement more of the projects on the J-Lewis and support the ongoing efforts here at Carlisle. Infrastructure improvements, two of the projects we've been discussing are the Post Road project. I'm in the process of developing an RFP to do improvements to Post Road. Once the academic building is completed, the base would like to have pedestrian access on the east side of the gate, so Post Road would be the access point. So they want to have improved safety, sort of looking at it as a multimodal project, working with North Middleton Township and the rest of the community to improve that road. There's two stream crossings that we would need to deal with, but we want to support on funding at least a preliminary design and ultimately a design effort that we're hoping the contractor who is engaged with the barracks could then do, because they're going to have to replace the damage that they would cause on that road. We're hoping that they would just improve the project to the point where we've designed it for multimodal access. We're going to continue to collaborate with the community through joint events. Again, we're meeting on a regular basis. They've had pause for a little bit. We're going to get those back up and going. We typically attend the change of command events, which I did one with Carlisle during COVID. Interesting that we were sitting in the auditorium.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a nice, a little different than normal, but it was nice to see that change.
One of the other things that we do to collaborate with community through joint events is in the past we have done, we do an elected official / military event, and we've had that at the Susquehanna Club. Hopefully in 2021 we can do something similar. We have new leaders, military commanders coming in, and we have some new representatives here at the federal, state, and local levels that we would like to bring together so they know who each other are and understand and get them better embedded within our community.
And I spoke with Michelle Crowley from the Carlisle Chamber, and she's taking a more active role with the events and activities on the base, and we're collaborating through that and making sure that there's activity continuing to be recognizing what's going on in these spaces. Good.
On the workforce development front, I know, Gary, you've been in many of these meetings with the bases that when we go there and get their updates, and one of the things that always come up in discussion is workforce development and what they're seeing on their side. And I remember meeting with the general of DLA and talking about more IT initiatives as they look more towards innovation and going forward with drones and some different things. So really wanting to, as we continue to kick off these quarterly meetings and the generals or whoever get their updates on the workforce development front, it's important to keep these three things in mind. And one was diversity, gender, and age. with gender, it's still mostly men in the military, so they really struggle to find women, to work at these installations. And then the rate differential versus the local competition, and then retraining and technical changes in the skilled workforce as we continue to advance in the more robotics, automation, and IT, with DLA, NSA, and the parallels.
So those are some of the 2021 initiatives we're going to pursue. A little more detail relative to the funding and the 2021 activities. As you can see in the bottom there, we currently have a budget of $236,160, and there's going to be additional detail on the next page. But we talked about the Carlisle Barracks project. They're doing a $90 million education building in Post Road. We want to have that as really the gateway into that project for safety purposes. And then we talked a little bit about NSA Mechanicsburg and Hampton Township, part of the J-Luce, again, identified projects. And they're looking at improvements at the intersection of Carlisle Pike and Sporting Hill Road. That intersection is impacted as a result of trying to enter either the north or the east gates at Mechanicsburg, so we're looking to assist them. And then on the operations side, 13 or 17,500 from the state, and we have currently a balance, and we'll talk a little bit about that going forward. 34,000 2020 balance currently, but we're looking at a budget of $236,160.
Jamie, J-Luce, what's that stand for?
Joint land use study. So what it does is works with a local municipality in the base. They look at opportunities or potential impacts, land use impacts that the base might have on the perimeter, whether it's transportation, stormwater. Stormwater is one of the other things that we've been talking
NSA,
about.
we identified stormwater as one of them.
Yeah, so part of that J-List was we should work together on transportation and stormwater issues around the base.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, well, I got a follow-up here. You make reference here to the project coming here, the state down for 98,660, and then operations working capital state down for 17,900. Are those secured now?
Yes.
Okay, so
Well, the 83, and I'm looking at these numbers, I think it should, 136. Let me just verify that number. Yeah, my other number there is wrong. The 98,660 is correct, yes. So we just put in a request for an additional 33,000. Back in the spring, they had asked us to make that application. Then they contact us, and when COVID happened, they said no, we aren't going to allocate those funds. But just in the past month or two, they've asked us to resubmit. So we've secured. Currently, we have 83,000. We're getting another 33 as part of that. That's actually the 116 on the next page is the correct number. So yeah, so we have those 116, 160 is secured through the state commission. Right. And then looking at column 2 on this table, 50,000 was from 2021 as the request. We had 50,000 budgeted for 2020, which I'll show you when we get to the very end to look at the overall request. We've only used a certain portion of those 50,000 because of the lack of activity. But we're anticipating with this Post Road project and the Hampton project that those funds will be expended.
So my question is, what from your list did not get done?
From the list of activities,
Yeah, if that's the proper place to be looking, because how comprehensive this is. Obviously, we didn't spend the funds for something that didn't get done. What was that?
Oh, we didn't do the event that we usually do with the elected officials, the military event, so I know that was one of the things that we didn't do.
we have an pre-COVID, or until COVID happened, we were seeking funds from York County. There was a new commissioner that came on board as the chairman down there, and I was gonna reach out to her to have a discussion about trying to get funding in their budget, because New Cumberland is in York County. Similarly, we've been asked to take on the 193rd. We've been collaborating with them to some degree, but not formally. So my goal is to reach out to the Dauphin County commissioners and put that request in as well. So that will be part of the 2021 activities, is for us to do outreach to those two counties.
Okay, here's my only point on that, is just as you're making your budget request to us now, it would seem that we would wanna get on their radar now, unless we're essentially writing them off for another year.
So I will make that call this week and see if I can have a discussion with those commissioners.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation on the local defense group. Any other questions on that? Okay. So we'll proceed to workforce development. Again, our 2020 workforce development goals were to collaborate with workforce providers around the county, again, to sort of be seen as that hub of information that come through CADIC and then be dispersed to employers or workforce providers, to continue to fill the pipeline of highly skilled family sustaining jobs in the following fields. Again, those have been going on for several years now with the heavy equipment operator program, advanced manufacturing, and healthcare. We'll talk a bit more about healthcare here for the 2021. We've identified a lot of the current and future occupation needs and some of the tooling, retooling, and training that needs to be done to provide employees for those particular industries. Also looked at retaining existing businesses in the region, and I think Ames, I'm trying to think, was that a 2020 activity or 2019, but retaining Ames in Cumberland County was a significant win for us. And we've been involved with them, and they're coordinating with us on a regular basis, and you'll hear a little bit more about from Laura on the child care side. We want to attract and expand businesses in the county based on having a quality, skilled workforce. I think we're in a good position there, but we want to continue to grow that. So with that, I'll let Laura talk a little more detail on the 2020 activities.
Yeah, so as you guys know, we held our workforce summer in September that was sponsored by Karina. We had close to 90 attendees at that meeting as well. The healthcare committees that we started working on, I think it was like 2 years ago, that was our last initiative after the heavy equipment got put in place. We finished advanced manufacturing, and now the last one was the healthcare. And so when we broke into that, we realized that we didn't only need to look at current healthcare programs with with all of our schools, but we also had to look at future healthcare programs. And I'm glad we did, because a lot of things that were already in the midst, like telemedicine, COVID gave a very forward shift to, and we're already making those things happen. So what's nice is we have all of our healthcare providers in the room with all of our educators. CV is still in there, Carlisle, and then we have Cumberland Perryville Tech, along with all of our educational institutions, including Penn State, Harrisburg, which Gary, that you requested that they be part of those conversations as well, and then HAC and HU. So that's a great collaboration, and we're also working on the training facility / conference center, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then working on a reentry program currently with Dickinson College, led by Hope Station. I've connected them to the county prison here. We've talked to and met with the warden and some others, to get them engaged in the parole officers, to make sure that we can kind of track and get people the training that they need in housing and transportation, and really talking to them on their level, what their biggest barriers are trying to get re-entered back into work in society. And then again, helped, bring GAT and, DCD and some others to help, with their building expansion. And then Partnership for Better Health, we continue to work with them on Sustainable Wage Task Force with Becca. And then County Resources for Job Seekers and Employers. One of the things that came out of that Sustainable Wage Task Force was in one of our strategic initiatives for workforce is to be the overarching, really keep a pulse on everything that's happening workforce related in the county because everybody's doing workforce efforts everywhere. We're trying to reduce redundancies by knowing what people are doing. Because a lot of times someone will start something here that they don't know that it's already being done. And by us being able to keep a tab on all of the workforce initiatives, we can reduce those redundancies, help fill gaps, and then help bring resources to the table to people to get these initiatives off the ground, but not necessarily be leading all of this. We also, on a state level, we belong to the Prep and Engage program, which means that we have to go out and meet with so many employers, and we have to put it all into a system that's shared throughout the state. The other thing, and Gary, you sent this to me, was the Southern Region Working Group. There's about 9 or 10 of us in that group. It's a regional working group led by Dr. Ski from HAC. So I am participating in that, representing Cumberland County. And then South Central Workforce Investment Board meetings, we continue. And then I also sit on the monthly Career Link meetings in Carlisle to listen what they're doing and what can I help them with, and also to give them a county perspective of what's happening with workforce throughout. Also attended an apprenticeship event in Hershey, and then the healthcare training facility project. This is really where I've been spending a lot of my time lately. We're actually have a $90 million investor that's interested in building this. It has a life science component to it. So we are working with the state on life sciences and biotech, and I'm learning all sorts of things about it. But the training facility, I have UPMC, Penn State, Highmark, all on board to help fund the feasibility study. And this will be utilized with all of our educational institutions as well to do apprenticeships and different things with the healthcare. But there will also be room for, within this training facility, for the skilled trades. We do training in as well as a conference center with about 250 to 300 seats, which was really needed and will help us bring alive again, maybe a better comeback to our hospitality.
Did you say you have a $91 million?
$90 million
investor? Okay.
Just to follow up on that, I'm just really proud of what Laura's been able to do with this initiative and bringing all of the healthcare institutions together to the table to, collaboratively invest in this is a huge win. To get them all talking together and to be part of this is,
3 years.
it's taken some time, but yeah, it's nice to go to those meetings and have them all represented at the table, so.
Yeah, it's good. I really like that project for a lot of reasons, but I mean, the biggest being an end user, and all I hear every time I go to the doctor is we don't have enough people. We don't have enough people to work here. There's a mad scramble.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and biotech would be great to have here, and we've also worked with the governor's office on this and stuff, and they say that it's being done in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and because of our education and our growing healthcare system, they think this is prime location.
Cool.
So, also the child care task force that we have talked about child care for some time now, stating that we've known it's always been an issue, but it's really taken COVID to bring it to light to really get things moving on that. And so I know that we're worried that a lot of women are dropping out of the workforce, and want to make sure that that's one of our top priorities. And so we continue to work on that. And one of the things that's not on here that I also attend is the PASHE child care work group that is out of Shippensburg University. And so I attend those meetings as well, and that's really just getting people engaged as child care workers and having them trained and make awareness of these opportunities for them. We do, for this child care task force, our next meeting's coming up. We have engaged with Ames and Giant to be on the call as well, to talk about their initiatives that we have strongly talked to them about supplementing. We all know that Giant is looking at putting in a facility for their employers and some others, but Ames also wants to supplement as, after talking to them, it's a way for them to, incentivize people to come in and work for them, if they could supplement some, possibly, to help pay and offset some of the costs for the childcare. So those are some initiatives that I think once we get one or two big employers to start doing, that hopefully the others will follow as well.
And I would again commend the commissioners for recognizing that with the renewed Cumberland program and putting a portion of the funds aside for those child care facilities. It really has, and we're participating on the United Way of the Capital Region calls and Carlisle United Way. So the United Ways have sort of taken a lead because of some of their early childhood education programs, but we're connecting that with the employers in the county. So it really is a collaborative approach between the nonprofits and us and others. So it's been a very good initiative, and it's going to continue to be a priority going forward.
And then the Workforce Housing Task Force, of course, we're trying to start looking at more workforce housing that's affordable, to get that off the ground as well, so it's one of our initiatives.
So again, tying workforce development into our 2021 goals, and one of our strategic priorities is to develop, inspire, and attract a talented, adaptive, and diverse workforce. And I'm very pleased to announce that, I don't know how far it's gotten distributed, but we have the September 2020 unemployment rate goals, or rate just reported, and we're going to be putting a press release out to that effect. But we started January, February, we were at 3.6% unemployment rate, and that's seasonally adjusted. In March, it started to go up as a result of COVID in the second half. In April, we were at the highest of the year, which was at 12.3%. Since then, we've been on a steady decline, and I'm happy to report that we're at 5.5% at the end of September. So,
I think that's even better than what was reported.
Yeah, 7 points.
Yeah.
that was actually 7.6 was in August.
Okay.
Laura just yesterday morning got a report at 5.5% through
awesome.
September. So yeah, it's a testament to the resiliency of Cumberland County, the diversity of our business sector, and really it's exciting to see the trend that we're heading in. We've talked to Jesse McCree at South Central PA Works over the past several months, and really the discussion in the middle of the summer was ultimately there's going to be a plateau that we're probably not going to get back to 3.6 because again of a number of women leaving the workforce to stay home with their kids and certain industries being impacted more prominently, that there's probably going to be a plateau of something between 3.6 and where we're at now. So we'll be looking to, and it sort of ties in with our first bullet there is workforce redeployment and identifying who that workforce is and what skills that they have and what can we connect to where the job needs are, and maybe redeploy those individuals that are displaced. So that's one of the initiatives going forward. And then of course we talked about child care, just trying to identify what are those opportunities, bring people together. I spoke with an HR generalist with Giant, and she talked about some of the things that they've been dealing with, incentivizing some of their employees, providing it as a benefit, collaborating with child care providers, and they have a little different situation where they have a corporate office in Cumberland County, but then they have thousands of team members in the grocery stores that they need to have people coming in. So they have a little different dynamic than a lot of companies do. So they're going to be part of the South or the United Way of the Capital Region call later this week. So also we want to collaborate with the workforce development providers as we have done and will continue to do so. Again, trying to elevate our brand and having Kate recognized as that sort of hub of information that we can help facilitate. We're not going to be doing all of the work, but we feel that we can play a major role in being that central point of communication and collaboration and distribution of resources and training. And then we're going to, really the big initiative out of this priority is to develop a workforce development plan. To go back and look at what are the skills gaps that, exist today and, what are the needs of our workforce in the future. So Laura's gonna lead that effort as we, again, take and put together a task force, bring various stakeholders together and develop that workforce plan over the next, probably 6 months. With that, I'm gonna let Laura talk a little bit about the 2021 workforce funding request and some of the programs in a little more detail that we're gonna support.
Yeah, so some of the funding requests will be used to increase awareness of our programs as we put this stuff together, and, you know, have programs and are trying to reach the right people to let them know and make them aware. We're really good at facilitating, bringing the schools to the table and work with the employers to put the proper programs in place, but if people don't know about it, it's just not worth our efforts. So really making them aware through opportunities of partnership, earning social media is important. Again, continue to be the catalyst supporting future development and healthcare training facility, which we've already talked about. That's really going to be at the forefront for me right now. And then hold task force and roundtable meetings to support and inform development of our workforce plan, making sure as we develop that, we bring the right partners to the table so they understand what a resource we can bring for them. One of the things that came from, that's kind of been on the back burner was this CAD technician training initiative. We met one time and it was with a lot of our architects and engineering companies said that they were getting kids that were really lacking this and that they wanted to put together some kind of training program for this. So we'll look at that as well. And then adult training program, again, as you guys know, as many people will lose their jobs and when the dust settles from the workforce standpoint, we'll be able to see what jobs are going away and where we need to retrain or retool to get people back to work. So that'll be an initiative as well. Do you guys have any questions on any of this? Gary, any questions?
Okay, so that takes care of the two that you're used to hearing from us about, the local defense group and the workforce. One of the things we'd like to request this year is some additional funding for economic development. One of our primary strategic priority is a healthy economic development ecosystem and implementation of our strategic plan. Since I've been on board, it's almost a year and a half now, but have shifted focus a little bit and trying to bring a little more attention to our downtown, because we also have responsibility for the Visitors Bureau, and our downtown really is what helps to attract visitors to our county as well. So we've shifted some of our staff to be able to focus a little more on that, and that's in collaboration with the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Rebecca Yerk does a very good job of identifying, the vacant businesses and trying to attract businesses within those buildings, and we're working together on blight. We're going to be working together on the land bank. Now there's going to be funds coming in that you approved the Act 152 a few months ago. So really, I'm very excited about the collaboration that has been going on, and with Mary Kuna coming back as the executive director of the Housing Redevelopment Authority, look forward to continuing that. We're going to define our roles, but I think there's a role for both of our organizations where we can contribute and support each other, and that's working closely with the planning department as well. It's Kirk Stoner. We on a monthly basis get together and talk about activities in our downtowns. We talk about blighted properties and what we can do to pick them up and redevelop them as well. So under the community development piece, which is our strategic initiative, revitalize our downtown areas, we want to focus again on the downtown economic development and providing businesses support. Rebecca does a very good job, but we have a lot of communities in Cumberland County that need help, and we're able to take a little different approach. We have some funding opportunities, grants and loans that they don't have access to. So I think the one thing that got me as Kirk Stoner was surprised at the number of options that businesses do have in the downtown. So by us getting together on a monthly basis, we're able to, again, maybe Rebecca can't help fund a project, maybe we can, so it's good to have that flexibility. Another recent activity that was brought to our attention was trail towns. I know Newville has been talking about being designated as a trail town for several years, even back when I was a consultant. York County just had I think a Zoom webinar, multi-event webinar, talking about trail towns and the importance of them on tourism. And Alan Dietrich Ward from the Rail Trail Authority contacted me and asked if we would be involved and potentially even lead this trail town initiative. So we could have, ultimately have Carlisle, Newville, Shippensburg identified as trail towns in connection with our rail trail. And then we would be collaborating with Franklin County, looking to take it into Chambersburg, Greencastle, wherever ultimately it would go with the rail trail. Because they are looking to put an extension from Shippensburg to Chambersburg on the rail trail now. So that's something we would like to pursue. We've been involved with the museum in Shippensburg, the rail museum in Shippensburg, potentially trying to get a piece of equipment that's here in Carlisle to another location. So we're collaborating on a lot of these things regarding the rail trail. And they really are a benefit to our tourism industry. And then we would look to use some of the funds for administrative support. You're all aware that our hotel tax revenue is the majority. It's about 70 to 80% of our budget. With that, right now we're receiving about 50 to 55% on a monthly basis. So our revenues are down significantly, and by shifting our staff from more of the tourism side, which was funded through hotel tax, to the economic development side of community development and real estate development, I'm unable to use those funds from the hotel tax to fund that staff person. So we have to keep them segregated in order to be able to do that. So part of that would be to help fund that individual. The second item is real estate development. Of course, our real estate collaborative was put together as part of an initiative from prior strategic planning. We've been very fortunate that we closed 2 of the 3 properties that we had owned during COVID. So we're down to the Tyco site, which we're continuing to market. So that's one small piece of what we're looking at, but the funding wouldn't necessarily go to REC because REC is supposed to be self-sustaining. But we're looking at a commercial vacancy initiative that Valerie Copenhaver and I have gotten together on, and we have a meeting scheduled with some brokers and some developers to look at what the impact is going to be, the COVID impact on some of our big box retail stores, and also our office space. We're concerned about the vacant office space that's likely to happen now that people are able to work from home. We've been in discussions about reuse as residential. What might that look like? So maybe it's, again, retail, commercial on the first floor, and if it's a 4-story office building, it could be a mixed use. It's already there. So that's some of the initiatives that we're looking at. And again, administrative support for that. I will tell you right now, we're not looking to hire anybody new. So I sort of taken on the real estate development role at Cade with the vacancy that we do have, and Valerie has shifted from her primarily being on the tourism side to assisting with the commercial development side. So that's all I have on the economic development. I just had one slide. Again, we didn't have that as part of our 2020 request. So this is, we would ask for $50,000 to assist with 2021. Any questions on the economic development piece?
Yeah, I got a bunch actually. So, on this third component, this new component, yes, I got a range of questions on here because I think some of these issues are not settled, especially in terms of the role of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. And Rebecca was in here last week and made her pitch, and I'm a little baffled that we would be paying her for community development and in turn paying you guys for community development. And I understand you do different roles, but it seems a little disjointed. I know that we're going to be taking another look at the MOU, which is essentially the framework that question marks surrounding, the role, just in terms of especially the downtown revitalization. You know, we've always had concern about stepping on each other's feet, and that was the intent, at least behind the MOU. So there's clear segregation of roles, but I'm not sure we actually realized that. And I believe that the review process should help remedy that, but we don't have those answers yet. So I've got a bunch of question marks hanging over that. Also, in terms of the real estate, that I'll caveat by saying we had a discussion a number of years ago, even when we began the real estate collaborative, in terms of is this an appropriate role for a county affiliated organization or any organization in terms of not stepping on the feet of the commercial realty industry. And we were very conscious of that because apparently there was a big go around in the capital region. UBC tried to get involved in that a number of years back, and they were pretty heavy handed about it, and they made a lot of enemies.
Right.
And we certainly don't want to repeat that mistake, nor do we want to interfere with just the function of a private industry sector in the market. Its ability.
If I could, to that point, when I was on the private sector side, that was one of my concerns when rec became rec, and the potential for a competition with the private sector is not something that I was supportive of. But then once I got to understand it, now on this side, there are properties out there that the private sector just can't touch because of the constraints that are on them. And that's where recs can step in and access.
Yeah, isn't that what the role of the land bank is to be?
Well, yeah, the land bank can come in and acquire properties that then we can redevelop. So, yeah, the land bank funds, really the funds will go in there to help us or to help the redevelopment authority. I anticipate that we would be accessing land bank funds for non-residential redevelopment.
I guess I'd like to see a much more developed proposal on how that partnership works, so that we're not just giving money to everybody and saying, go figure it out.
Right.
I'd rather see, if we don't know it's before, allocating money for that. In terms of rec, I think it's worth pointing out that that was a very different animal from what created the controversy, because that was specifically focused toward brownfields, where we saw a public mission role for a county affiliated organization to help ameliorate some of the risk that was keeping private developers away and putting them in connection, especially with state dollars. My understanding is that the opinion of our foremost expert on that topic on our board is saying that those state dollars are not going to exist for at least a year, maybe 2, maybe 3. So I'm not sure we have a lot of clarity on how these things are going to work together, or even exactly what results we're talking about. So I gotta tell you, I'm a little reluctant on this until we get more of the MOU questions worked out. I would finish up by saying, I think just to refer back to Rebecca's role with the downtown, one of my recurring criticisms there has been that there are no enunciated goals. It's simply a kind of, how do I want to put it, roll with whatever seems to be happening at the time. And there's a certain amount of value to that kind of flexibility, but it does not seem to be integrated into any plan that HRA has. It certainly doesn't seem to be integrated into what our strategic blueprint is, and we've tried in undertaking that process to ensure that we have a real plan. And yet we've got this element functioning out there that is not tied in any way to that plan, and has essentially no accountability to that plan or to the commissioners, other than they come back and ask for money every year, and I say, where's your numbers? And they basically say that those don't matter. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but only a little bit.
So if I could, I think, in understanding what Rebecca does, I think I sort of look at her as sort of a broker for these downtowns of, trying to get deals done between building owners and businesses, and she's sort of working that brokerage type role. But then she has access to CDBG CDBG funds that she can help, you know, make those deals work. We are collaborating, so there's really not a duplication of effort, I will say, because we're not necessarily going out there and trying to find businesses to fill those holes. We're working with municipalities to, you know, help them position, you know, some of their properties and to be recognized. You know, what can we do to improve your downtown? Because I'm a native of Shippensburg, I've been involved with Shippensburg and the borough's long-range planning committee here over the past 6 or 8 months. So it really is a different role. It's, you know, assisting from the economic development perspective of planning and working with her. And again, we're not functioning according to the MOU. Right now, the MOU says Housing and Redevelopment Authority is responsible for everything in the boroughs. Kate, you're responsible for everything surrounding the boroughs. That has changed because of the staff and personnel, and, you know, certainly with my background in planning and understanding that vibrant communities are going to help us, you know, from a tourism standpoint. It's going to help our, you know, diversify our economy. It's going to help us attract, again, that workforce that wants to be in those livable, walkable communities. So, you know, we're not.
You have to admit there's a certain amount of confusion that exists out there.
Sure.
For people who aren't familiar with the organizations, when they're in a downtown, and they're like, well, do I go to this organization or this organization? And they may want both of us, they may want neither of us, depending on, you know, so I think we've got a disjointed system here in which people are not getting the information they need, and we're not necessarily achieving results in an optimal way. I continue to believe, as I've said for years, that downtown redevelopment really should be under one roof or the other. And I know because of the funding silos, that is not always, you know, we're not ideally able to do it in that simplistic fashion. But I also haven't seen the mechanisms in place and working that would ensure that we are getting that end result. And I personally would want to see the MOU revisited and perhaps refined and enacted, and people signing on that they're going to abide by this, and that we're going to have, you know, a plan to follow, and we know what we're going to try to achieve.
Yeah, so we have, to that point, we have a meeting set up with Mary Kunis. She starts on Monday.
Yeah.
And we have a meeting set up next week before Tim leaves, so we can have sort of that transition discussion of who's been doing what and how effective has it been. But yeah, I would anticipate within the next month we would have a revised MOU that you know, we would take to our boards. The redevelopment authority would have to take it to theirs, and I would be taking it to the Cape board to get agreement on that. And working again, the way the MOU is written now, Kurt Stoner is the mediator between the two. So I think that's why it's been working well, as we're collaborating across the 3 organizations. So yeah, I will commit to moving forward with it.
I got one final point, but before I get down, I'm going to ask this question. So you have 2 different elements here. You got the community development and you got the real estate development. If you had to pick one, which one would it be?
I would say the community development. Really, I think that is really where our future lies with, you know, supporting our tourism sector with our downtown. I mean, we've seen what Carlisle has done over the past 10 years or so, and really has been part of the attraction to Cumberland County. I'd like to replicate that through all of our communities. Shippensburg, again, being a native there, moved back here in 2012. I drove downtown. It was depressing. You know, there's a lot of assets there that we need to improve upon and bring attention to. And the same thing, New Cumberland, they have some things going on there with the theater. Kent Pill has, you know, been doing it, streetscapes. We really, Mechanicsburg, again, when I was in my consulting role, working with the Downtown Mechanicsburg Partnership. And it's interesting, one of the initiatives that we've talked about was closing alleys or side streets so restaurants could do outdoor dining. Well, what happened in COVID, you closed down the alley and provided for outdoor dining. And I really see going forward the impact of COVID on municipal officials, understanding that this stuff can be done and it can be successful. We don't need to regulate to the point where we squelch economic opportunity. Carlisle Borough, same thing with, the open container thing, taking it from the bar to go to a public space to be able to be outdoors. That's some of what I want to work with the county on and the redevelopment authority and redeveloping these downtowns and bringing the vibrancy back.
All right, I'll move to my last point, and that is one of the precepts of how we handle this over recent years has been that because Katy has its own revenue source, of course, the hotel tax, grant constraints on how that's spent. And then there are other components that are directly funded by the county. And we've generally segregated these out by, okay, there are funding sources available to Katy for this. And then there are those other things for which there aren't funding sources, or they simply aren't enough to pay for it, but the county government has said, these items, workforce development, and the base preservation, these things will not pay for themselves, but they're important enough to our long-term economic viability that the county is willing to put taxpayer money behind them, because there will be a long-term benefit. And we get references to that now and then. I don't hear much of it coming out of Katy, and I guess what I'm getting at is this. I'm not sure I see how these match up to the blueprint, which we are in the, essentially implementation phase for now, even though it's yet to be formally approved. We are moving toward implementation. And the initiatives, it seems to me, really have not been discussed in terms of which ones and which components of which ones constitute public mission and therefore would warrant a request to the county versus those for which you have the ability to fund elsewhere, either through reserves, hotel tax money, or state grants, or what other sources there are. And I think without knowing that, it's kind of tough for me to make what I consider an informed decision in regards to what the county really has an interest in saying yes to, versus having you look for those other sources. That's, to my mind, that's just been a generalized weakness beyond this request of the blueprint. Is we have not yet talked about what's affordable and how things will be paid for, yet we're adopting them without sufficient regard, in my opinion, to is this doable with the resources available, or do we have a likely prospect of acquiring these resources? So I'd like to see more of a defined definition of the things you're suggesting in terms of public mission and why the commissioners should be the funder of first resort, as it were, or even a supplemental for that matter. Because I'm not sure I see where these fit into the priorities that have emerged from the strategic blueprint. They may be there, but we haven't made the connection in a way that I think it's easy for the commissioners to say, yes, that's worthy of us putting taxpayer money front and center for that initiative. And particularly with the downtown thing, I'm not to beat a dead horse, but I just feel like we've got two different horses running in different directions, and we need to tame those guys and put them under a single set of reins so that they're pulling the wagon in the same direction. And until that's done, I'm a little hesitant. I don't know how my colleagues feel on this, but we have, as I'll put this forward, we do have the ability to essentially give you a 1 year allocation and then say, come back and prove that you're worthy of year 2, year 3. We did that originally with the base money. In fact, we did with the workforce money as well. And I think we've done a fine job justifying that because we've made good progress on those issues. So if we were to approve this or some portion of this, I would suggest that we probably do it also on a contingency basis with an expectation that by next year you will work out some of these details of who's doing what, who's paying for what, and then we would be able to make a more informed decision.
That's fair, absolutely fair. Yeah, like I said, I am committed to working on the MOU to clearly define, and it still may be that we do a certain role and the redevelopment authority does a role. But we will continue to collaborate. That's part of the MOU that sort of commits us to collaborating on the downtown revitalization effort. sure that we're following through. So, you know, what does that look like? Does it, you know, we're gonna track the success of those funds or the effort that we put into each of these downtowns in a way that we have yet to determine. But yeah, we aren't just gonna be doing the meetings and attending events just for the sake of doing it. There has to be a return.
All right, that helps.
I think
would
it'll be
say-
important for Mary, the new executive director, to know, to have that well defined, because
Yes.
we weren't doing these initiatives when she was here, and so that'll be new for her to understand where we.
But she's gonna need some time to figure out where things are now versus where they were 2.5 years ago, or whatever it was. So the other option that I think the board may wanna consider, is that we can also set aside money in county contingency and wait for clarity and then entertain a funding request once there's more specifics.
Yeah.
That'll be a decision of the commissioners, and I'm sure we'll have to.
No, I appreciate that, yeah, I mean, we're putting together the request, and it's, you know, when you have to go through your budgeting and, you know, determine where you're at, certainly understand that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Jamie, I have a question on this page, on the Renew Cumberland grant.
We're getting,
No, I'm sorry.
that's three more pages.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Save my question.
okay, yeah, so this, the account, excuse me, do you have a question on the economic development side, or?
I have a different question. Vince, did you get your question answered?
We're gonna
No,
see,
we're-
we're not there
I
yet.
thought we were done. We're not.
No, I still got a couple
I
things.
have a question, I do have a question
Okay.
on the economic development side. If I heard you correctly, you said that we can't use the hotel tax dollars for economic development.
So there's an allocation, 83% goes to tourism, 87% goes to tourism, I think it's 13% goes to economic development.
So let me ask you, I'm just gonna throw this in there, and I haven't thought about this long and hard enough to really put together it might be a bit convoluted. But one of the things that's always concerned me about Katie's tourism goal is that we have this tourism goal that seems to bring people in here to a campground or to wherever, and they use the natural resources and they leave and they don't spend any money in our downtowns, in our economy. So, could a stretch be made somewhere where that hotel tax has to be used for this type of economic development to promote tourism? And when I get into Laura, into your project on workforce development and on this medical training facility, people aren't gonna wanna just come here and hang out all day learning medical training, and then, I don't know, what are they supposed to do, go to the Olive Garden? Right, like, is that the best thing that we can offer them, right? The Olive Garden's fine, I like the Olive Garden, but I don't wanna do it every night, you know? If I'm here for a week of training, what else are we gonna offer them? And so when I hear that about this hotel tax, I have to wonder if that 87% that we're supposed to use for tourism, can we somehow use it in creatively, right? Instead of, and I'm getting the impression, Jamie, that what we're doing is putting those dollars in the bank right now and just kind of letting them sit.
So we're not putting them in the bank.
Okay, okay.
The tourism dollars are by statute required to go towards tourism production or promotion.
Okay.
So we use those funds towards tourism promotion. We have a grant program that we use them to help, again, if it's a tourism asset, we can help fund an asset. I go back to one other thing, campgrounds. Unfortunately, we don't get hotel tax for campgrounds. So
Correct.
we don't do a whole lot of promotion for campgrounds.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
So that's just one that, it would be nice if we had a tax for every camper that sat on Cumberland County property, but we don't. But yeah, so to your point, and it's interesting because part of our strategic plan on the workforce side is, I forget what the number is, 50 to 60% of our hotel stays are actually business stays, not visitor stays. So what we're trying to do with the strategic plan is to be an agency or a resource that is supporting those business travelers and encouraging them to come back and visit as a tourist, or if they're business owners, to maybe relocate their business to Cumberland County because of the quality of life and the assets that we have. So we're gonna be doing, that's one of the initiatives, is to try to promote Cumberland County to those business travelers in order to, again, whether it's, it doesn't matter what business it is, can they relocate here, or if they're, a talented employee, maybe they wanna live here. We're seeing the exodus to the metropolitan areas because of COVID. Do we promote in DC or Baltimore or Philly, quality of life, come live here and work remotely?
So we are, we promote the region through our prep partners, which is our surrounding economic development. So one of our strategic goals is to really promote us as a region to come here, live, work, and play. The training facility that would have a 250 to 300 seat conference space, which is so needed, and we know that in this area because we have the Radisson, which we use currently. And so we have a full-time position that is a destination sales manager whose only job is to go out and bring conferences and tours and people into the area for group tours and so forth to meet here. And we have really not been able to bring those big groups in here to enjoy everything that we have to offer here because we don't have the space to hold them. So this would be really a game changer in a sense of getting people out, getting them down to our downtowns, sort of like Carlisle Events has done a great job at getting people in our downtowns and helping them, so.
So I think to your point is, can we shift
Yes.
that percentage?
Mm-hmm.
Can we adjust that percentage to give more towards the economic development side? I've had discussions about that. Again, because of the statute that it's for tourism, we would have to define that, even though it's business travelers, it's a tourism-related promotion. So there is a possibility that we could adjust that percentage. And I'd have to look into it. Shereen, if she was here, she'd be able to talk to it better than me because she's been on the tourism side.
Continuity.
I'd be interested in knowing that, and I think about, there's a restaurant in, the city of Harrisburg, that I know that when people have to travel to this area, to go to the Capitol or to do something in this area, they're like, I can't wait to go to that restaurant, right? I mean, wouldn't those be, in effect, some type of tourism?
Yeah.
Yes.
So one thing that we've done in the past though, through product development is, on the tourism side was pull together like Deloitte's and some of our hospitals and some of our, the younger staff, and we brought the millennials in and we had the Central Penn Business Journal, Jason came in and did on the whiteboard, and you were there as well. Really come through with what ideas, where do you guys, when Deloitte comes here, where do you guys travel to go do anything? Well, we go to Pittsburgh to play football. Well, do you have to go there? So we really took down some product development ideas and tried to implement some of those. Instead of using it for marketing dollars, we said, why don't we put it towards real product? Anything that drives people into the area, we'll put those dollars towards that. On the economic development side, through our Alliance program, which was started to help offset some costs, our funding and financing, some of our grant program, things that we can put together, that has tried to offset and give us more money on the economic development side because we are more result driven on this side.
So one of our initiatives in the strategic plan is looking at other funding sources. So not that it's to come to the county and ask for more money, but we are going to be looking at other opportunities. And it's interesting. Just this week, Laura's been inundated with requests for assistance with funding. We had one manufacturer call today looking for support. They want to grow. They want to expand. They came to us in years past. They said, hey, you helped us out before. We want to expand. Can you help us out again? So we're going to be following up on those calls. So it's encouraging to hear that. And again, whether it's a wave of manufacturing coming back to the U.S. and especially locally here, I think it's a great opportunity for us to be in a position to be able to help them. So yeah, hopefully we
just need more help.
Yeah, hopefully our revenue will continue to grow as because when we do funding and finance, we get a fee that supports. So we were concerned that going forward, what might that look like? Again, DCED not having funds to be able to put into some of the things, but
families so that when you come to town to do this, you bring your family with you and they go do something cool and fun. I see that as.
So there was actually a place that's earmarked, I'm not sure the feasibility study will say that that's the right place for it to be. The commercial broker and the developer, as I was supporting another project and I saw the need through workforce for this, called me back for more conversations, and we had talked about using that site. So their amenities they already have it schematically set up. This is where they're holding off on having this, and this is what they've already had allocated to go around it, to your point. And so this is a big development site, and the actual commercial broker is the one that brought the investor.
And to that point, we talked about multi-use campuses, or facilities. That's where the sports complex is, one of those things that we've talked about at CAIC over the past few years. Similar thing, can we attract, travel teams here for tournaments and, all the people I'm talking to, whether it's soccer, lacrosse, baseball, everybody's saying it's needed. We're trying to find that developer that's willing to come in and front the money and be part of that. So, these mixed-use developments are really, it's a destination, creating a destination for tourism here, so. So with that, I talked a little bit about the 2020 funding status, based on going back and looking at our timesheets. Unfortunately, we didn't start our electronic timesheets until June, July timeframe, so it wasn't as easy going back and looking at all the labor expenses we had. But this really gives you a sense of where we were year to date, with some projected costs worked in, and I'd say that's not completely accurate because we are projecting over the next 3 months. So just that's sort of a fund balance that we were identifying that we would hopefully use through the end of this year, but if not, we'd like to roll that into 2021. So then putting it all together with the 2020 fund balance, and then the request of 150, the total then would be, again, to carry that 38,309 over. So, per our discussions, I'm sure you'll take that into consideration and determine then what you would want to do. So that's the end of the case 2021 request for funding. We'll roll into the renewed Cumberland grant piece. So the last thing we want to talk about today is the renewed Cumberland grant administration funding request. And just to give you a little outline, again, I'm thankful to the commissioners for the opportunity for our team and to administer the program. I'm very proud of the job that was done. Bringing on Gary Chickatano to lead that, sort of be the liaison between the commissioners and the task force and CAIC, I think was very productive. And we're getting accolades from around the state, whether it's the chamber folks or the EDCs or the counties. Certainly think that we've done a very good job and appreciate the initiative that you guys took. So tier 1 was, we received 476 applications. We funded 400 for a little over $13 million. Tier 2 was 17 child care applications. We funded at a little over $260,000. And then on the small business side, tier 2, we were funding 134 small businesses for $563,000 roughly, for a total award of just shy of $14 million that you've committed to small business. And I will tell you, in conversations I've had personally, they are very grateful. They've been able to survive to this point, many of them, which they would not have. It's not the cure-all for sure, and we don't know where things are going forward, but I will tell you that it has made a significant impact on many of our small businesses. The other thing, through the process, and we've been before you, Gary, talking mostly on the process, and the chambers of commerce have played a significant role in community outreach and COVID impact outreach and collaboration, and they also played a role in the grant review process. We would bring them to the table once we had the financial review done. We would go through and each of the chambers sort of break them up by town, sort them by town, and then, you know, the chamber executives would help us review them and determine eligibility and worthiness of the grant. So they played a critical role in that process. And through the discussion, I guess the county had commented about K sort of being, you know, the conduit to help get them some funding, because they had been left out of any federal funding support. So as a 501c6, they were not eligible. So because of the outreach that they've done, we're requesting $68,000 on behalf of the 4 chambers of commerce in Cumberland County. And then looking at the expense that Katie has had in administering the program, we come up with a cost of about $68,000, and thus the request, Gary, I guess, was initially approved for $40,000. It doesn't look like it's going to come to that total amount, so we're backing his off to about 30, and then the balance of that 98 would then be to Katie and the one sub-consultant we use for data analytics as well. So the request for funding through the CARES Act would be then $166,000.
I just want to point out, we did run this by Dana, and she's very satisfied with the request as it is.
Jamie, I had a question on this, but you answered it, so thank you.
Is there any money left over?
He said that it's gonna get it in bonus.
Well, and this is what I'm asking, and
So-
it's just kind of, is there money left over?
I sort of stay out of the county's money. I have a role to do at K,
Just when it
but
comes into
as
play.
part of the task force, there is some money that's being declined, some grants are being declined. There's also some that are involved with tax lien issues. There are probably gonna be some funds that come back into sort of the county pot, and I understand that there's identified uses for them if there is a balance that comes back. So,
No,
yeah.
I am wondering this, and so I saw this yesterday, and I was like, what, a good idea. You know, our restaurants struggle, right? They're gonna struggle. They're down to what, 50% capacity, and there's all these rules.
Winter's coming.
And you have, right, and things are safer when people can eat outside. I watched a locally owned restaurant yesterday start installing outdoor pods.
We
We're
just
putting
got
it in our
a,
news.
Did you get a request for them?
well, we actually just got a photo. The Watershed Pub is gonna have their little plastic domes where they can put a table and chairs inside and a heater, so they will be able to operate in cold, like tonight, I guess, they would be able to have patrons there.
Cozy.
So, yeah, and that's, you know, that's something that these restaurants are doing everything they can possibly do to make
I know.
things work.
It just,
But yeah, I mean, that's something
if we
that,
have that kind of money left over, and there's an interest in that, I would certainly be willing to support our local businesses with those kinds of things.
one of the issues with,
Innovative ideas, like.
yeah, one of the issues with these funds are they need to be expended by December the 30th.
Right.
So
They'll move quickly.
it would be very difficult now, I mean, considering the amount of time it takes to advertise and open up a portal for people to apply. It would be very difficult, I think, at this point, to be able to get the applications in, reviewed, you know, grant agreements reviewed and approved, and then the funding out the door.
Okay.
Although, again, there's a look back to March the 1st of 2020, so.
But we also have, some small business grant money that we'll be dispersing out, and we wrote a grant for, that we didn't wanna put out just yet, but as winter comes about, and maybe a second or first go around from us, that would be helpful.
I mean, it's definitely a COVID-related expense. No one would have been like, oh, I need a pod, right? Like, I need 10 pods.
It's PPE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea how much money they are.
Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
interested to see, it can't be that, it's just plastic.
Yeah, I don't know,
Well,
but,
then you have the heater, I would say, you know, for each of those pods.
Some of the places are equipped, they can simply use the vinyl enclosure
Yeah.
that decks,
Yeah.
a lot of existing restaurants have, for winter months, they enclose it deck with a vinyl.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Well, these are out on the
street.
sidewalk, cause
Yeah.
the restaurant isn't set up that way, so they were just,
Yeah.
we're installing them right
Well,
there.
Daniel at Midway is using part of the request that he got from the county to do the tent thing outside of heaters, and
Cool.
it will work out well for them.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked, about tier 3.
I was gonna ask about new money, because they're still,
The counties,
still
yes,
banging around about.
we think there's a lot of county money that's gonna come back to the state coffers that they're gonna end up looking to redistribute, so. And then what we're hoping is that the legislature comes back and says, we're gonna extend the deadline from December 30th
Yeah,
to
that would be nice.
maybe another year, so, because again, you look at a lot of these counties that just haven't, operated as efficiently as we've been able to get the funds out, so.
Otherwise, Dana was in, so.
Yes,
Hello.
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here 3 and I'm like having a heart attack. So, most of this money is being spent. There will be an immaterial amount left. And we have reallocated some of those dollars in the tier 2 because we knew some would not be allocated. So we do have a plan for spending all the money. There's not enough time in tier 2.
Absolutely.
Well, unless they extended the date, the deadline, and provided more funding available, so.
Just a comment,
If they extend the date, that's a different ballgame, but
Yeah.
we are running out of time.
At the last housing redevelopment meeting, Tim Whalen assured me his full involvement until his last day, which is November 13th. And, I don't think it is an insurmountable task to get that MOU to where it needs to be. So,
Yeah, so
I'm not so sure that's true.
it all depends on the approach of the new executive director and our ability to really sit down. I mean, we're gonna meet with Tim and Mary when she gets here next week, whether we can get it done. We can't get it done, but we can have it drafted, we can have an understanding that we can then finalize, within the coming weeks. So, yeah, I would hope by the end of November that we would have something in place that we can,
But even to Gary's point to us, we need to clearly outline,
the roles.
and our priorities within that.
And so we know their intentions over there, and if they agree to that certain things need fixed, it's gonna be hard to really, I think, have a logical plan. So we covered that at this point. I did have one thing I wanted to mention, just going back to the hotel tax information. So I just wanna make sure that we're clear on a couple of things. So you mentioned about the 13%. The statute does not designate the number. It simply designates that the money has to be used for tourism purposes. But there are not firm definitions on that.
Right.
And so the question really surrounds, can we apply those monies in a manner that is not necessarily so black and white? And I'm not talking about, breaking the law, I'm talking about, our situation is somewhat interesting in that our travel is predominantly business oriented rather than leisure oriented. So I think the past discussions have resulted in expressions of confidence by many folks that certainly changing that is not only doable, but it is certainly defensible. So, to take that a step further in terms of your hotel tax revenues, we did have some discussion a few months back about replacing the revenue that's lost with an increase in the hotel tax rate. So Cumberland County, I think most people know this, is at 3% on a hotel tax, on a hotel stay, and that is significantly below, percentage-wise, significantly below where other counties are. The state law allows it to go to 5%, we're at 3%. And it's been a number of years since we raised it from the 2.5 to 3. The law does allow for a change there. That is a pass-through, so it's not a hit on our hotels. But I'll reiterate what I told you months ago. What I'd like to see is that we have expressions of support from the lodging community that, they believe that they would benefit from that. If the commissioners were provided significant backing by the lodging industry, that they would back that with the understanding that those dollars are gonna be invested back into, promoting travel, whether it's business or leisure. And that's where we got the pushback years ago, internally as well, is the interpretation was it had to be leisure travel. That is now decided that it's not necessarily true. So I would just say, I know we started that process and frankly, put an end to it because it was too much of an investment of time and energy in the midst of the pandemic. So we're certainly not out of the woods on the pandemic, but with the Cumberland Renew winding down in terms of the busy part, I would say that you might wanna restart that engine and start making some contacts in the lodging industry and ask them, you know, this is something they would be receptive to, that we may be able to build their capacity, if we have the opportunity, the resources to do the type of outreach that we're gonna need to do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your suggestion there, and we'll definitely look into that opportunity and report back to you. One final thing I'd like to mention publicly is the win, the NCAA Division III Cross Country National Championships are coming to Cumberland County in 2023. So, again, a very exciting opportunity for us. Kate, working with Dickinson College, is going to be the host, but that will be held at Big Springs Cross Country course, which is, you know, recognized again nationally as a great course. So, just wanted to mention that to you as well.
Jamie, completely off the topic, has Kate been approached by anyone concerning the health development in Silver Spring?
So yeah, so I've been asked, I was asked to participate in their public meeting when they had that, just talking from an economic development standpoint. We've been talking to Silver Spring Township, meeting with the manager, assistant manager, and others about, you know, what might happen with that property and to try to assist with directing some of the activity there, you know, whether it's on the commercial side, industrial side, or even on, you know, the township lands, of what we might be able to do to help them if they wanted to put in recreation or other things. So, just very much on the surface at this point, so we really haven't been deeply involved in it, but certainly
It's just,
yeah, so, the other thing, when you talk Silver Spring Township, we have been, in discussions with them about, supporting on the economic development side, you know, trying to bring tournaments. They have Stony Ridge Park. We had tried to get a lacrosse tournament there this summer, but because it was a really dry summer, they were concerned about killing the grass. One of the things that they have wells there, so they're talking to us about potentially helping to get, an irrigation system onto the park so that we could use it as, a tournament destination. So we're collaborating on that and some other things with the township.
thanks.
Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come here. And
Thank you very much.
Great discussion.
And good information. And continue to be impressed at how Cumberland Renews was carried out, and frankly, at a very reasonable cost. You know, what we're paying for it, so, a lot of result there. Okay, is there any, I'm moving on to item 4, is there any additional business before we adjourn?
I don't have anything.
Okay, any staff needs to bring to us? No, okay. We do open the floor for public comment. Do we have anyone waiting online to offer public comment? I see no,